You enter a space built for repetition. The ceiling is high, the walls are plain, the floor is open. There is nothing here to distract you, no decorations to study, no corners to hide in. The room feels empty, but prepared. People sit close together, not touching, but close enough to feel each other breathe. The seats are arranged in rows or circles. Every position faces the same direction. There is no front yet, no leader visible, just space waiting to be filled with sound. The air feels thick even before anything begins. Conversations fade on their own. No one asks for silence. It arrives naturally, as if the room expects it. The quiet feels shared, comfortable, almost relieving. At the center, there is nothing special, no object to focus on, no symbol to explain what this is about. That absence matters. Without something to look at, attention turns inward, toward voices, toward rhythm. Someone clears their throat. A sound begins, simple, short, easy to repeat. It is not a sentence. It does not explain anything. It doesn't need to. It only needs to be copied. The sound happens again, louder this time. Others join in, not all at once, slowly, carefully. Each voice checks the room before committing. Then the voices align, the timing tightens. The sound settles into a pattern. The room changes when that happens. You can feel it. The walls seem closer, the air warmer. Individual voices disappear into something shared. You are no longer listening to words, you are listening to rhythm. Breathing adjusts. Bodies sway slightly even if no one planned to move. The sound creates its own pace, fast enough to hold attention, slow enough to feel safe. Thought begins to soften around the edges. No one is leading, but no one is confused. The chant carries itself. It does not ask questions, it does not offer answers. It only repeats. And repetition feels grounding, familiar, trustworthy. The room no longer feels like a place where something might happen. Something is already happening. You don't need to understand it to stay. You don't need to believe anything specific. You only need to continue. Before meaning arrives, before intention is explained, the group is already synchronized. Voices rise and fall together, breath moves together. Time feels less sharp. This room does not persuade, it absorbs. And once the sound holds everyone at the same pace, thinking feels unnecessary. You are already inside it. This is where Carl Jung would begin to listen beneath the sound, not to the chant itself, but to what it allows people to put down. Chanting does not explain, it replaces. It gives the mind something simple to hold so other things can step aside. Jung would notice how quickly thinking softens once repetition takes over. The chant fills the space where questions usually live. Doubt does not disappear, it is displaced, temporarily quieted by rhythm. That quiet feels like relief. The shadow here is not darkness, it is fatigue, the exhaustion of choosing, deciding, questioning. Chanting offers rest from that work. You don't need to know why you're here. You don't need to understand anything. You only need to repeat. Jung believed the shadow forms wherever parts of ourselves are denied expression. In this room, what is denied is complexity. The messy thoughts, the contradictions, the feelings that don't fit into a shared sound. They don't leave. They wait while attention stays occupied. Because the chant is shared, the shadow becomes shared too. Everyone is synchronized. Everyone breathes together. If your mind wanders, you bring it back. Not because anyone tells you to, but because the group rhythm makes wandering feel like separation. Jung would see how powerful that is. The individual dissolves just enough to feel safe. You are not alone with your thoughts anymore. The chant holds them for you. That can feel comforting. It can also feel like disappearance. Nothing about this feels forced. That's important. The chant does not command silence, it creates it. The shadow steps back willingly, grateful for the break. Inner conflict feels rude here, out of sync. Jung would not call this dangerous, he would call it revealing. It shows how easily the mind hands over its edges when repetition promises unity, how quickly people accept sameness when it offers peace. When the chant continues long enough, identity softens. You are not your worries, you are not your doubts, you are part of a sound. For a moment, that feels like healing. But the shadow is patient. When the sound stops, it returns, carrying the same questions it always had, slightly quieter, slightly postponed, and now paired with the memory of how easy it felt to let them go together. This is where Friedrich Nietzsche would begin to listen for goodness inside the sound. Not goodness as kindness, but goodness as correctness. The chant does not just repeat, it approves. In spaces like this, joining the chant feels right, not because it is explained, but because everyone is doing it. Silence before the chant feels awkward. Silence during it feels wrong. The moral line is drawn quietly. Participation becomes virtue. Nietzsche would notice how quickly rhythm turns into obligation. The chant is simple, easy, anyone can join. That ease matters. When something is easy to do together, refusing it starts to feel like resistance. And resistance in a calm space feels impolite. The chant does not tell you what to believe, it tells you how to belong. Matching the sound becomes a sign of openness. Falling out of rhythm feels like selfishness. The group does not accuse, it doesn't need to. Morality here is enforced through harmony. Nietzsche warned about moral systems that hide inside unity. When agreement feels peaceful, disagreement feels disruptive. When repetition feels grounding, questioning feels sharp. The chant creates a shared measure of what is acceptable without ever naming it. There is a right way to chant, a right volume, a right pace. Too loud feels aggressive, too quiet feels distant. The body learns these limits quickly. Morality moves into posture and breath, not rules. What makes this powerful is how gentle it feels. No one tells you to chant, you want to. And once you do, stopping feels noticeable. You feel yourself step out of alignment. Nietzsche would see how morality works best when it feels chosen. The chant does not punish those who hesitate. It waits. That waiting is enough. The sound continues without you. That absence becomes visible even if no one looks. Morality here is not about guilt, it is about synchronization. Nietzsche would question what happens to difference in a room like this, not because difference is bad, but because sameness is rewarded. The chant smooths edges, it makes voices blend. Individual tone disappears into something approved. Nothing here feels cruel. That's why it lasts. The chant offers relief, it offers belonging, and it quietly teaches that goodness sounds a certain way, moves at a certain pace, and repeats itself without asking why. When the chant ends, the room feels settled, clean, right. And the moral lesson remains, carried not in words, but in the memory of how good it felt to move together without standing out. This is where Niccolò Machiavelli would stop listening to the sound and start watching what it organizes. Not who speaks, not who begins, but who controls the rhythm once it exists. In a chant, power does not sit in a person, it sits in timing, in repetition, in the agreement to continue. Once the rhythm is established, no one needs to lead, the group carries itself. That is the most efficient kind of power. Machiavelli would notice how authority becomes invisible here. There are no commands, no instructions repeated. The chant removes the need for them. When everyone follows the same pattern, direction no longer has to be enforced. It is maintained by participation. The chant decides when to begin and when to end. It decides how long attention lasts. It decides the pace of breath and movement. These decisions feel natural, even collective, but they still shape behavior. Power works best when it feels shared. He would also watch who benefits from this arrangement. The group becomes stable, calm, predictable. Energy is synchronized. Disruption is unlikely not because it is punished, but because it is exhausting to resist the rhythm. Falling out of sync costs more effort than staying in. Machiavelli understood that systems last when they reduce friction. The chant does that. It simplifies experience. It narrows choice. You don't decide what to do next. The sound does it for you. That relief builds loyalty, not to a person, but to the state the chant creates. No one appears to be in control. That's the trick. The structure holds control while remaining unseen. If someone stops chanting, nothing happens to them. The chant continues. That continuation is the pressure. Power does not need to correct. It only needs to persist. He would notice how easily the chant scales. Add more people and the rhythm grows stronger. The system does not weaken with size, it stabilizes. The more voices join, the harder it becomes to step outside without being noticed. Machiavelli would not call this manipulation, he would call it effective organization. The chant aligns bodies, attention, and time without force. It produces order without resistance. When the chant ends, the power does not disappear. The memory of alignment remains. People carry the rhythm with them. The next time they hear it, they will fall back in easily. Power has already done its work. This is authority without a face, control without commands, influence that moves through sound, held together by the simple decision to keep repeating, together. This is where Napoleon Hill would feel the moment belief locks in. Chanting does not persuade with ideas, it persuades with experience. When something feels powerful enough in the body, belief follows without needing explanation. Hill believed belief grows through repetition and emotional charge. The chant offers both. The sound is simple, the rhythm steady, the repetition does the work. Each cycle reinforces the last. Over time, participation itself becomes proof that something meaningful is happening. In a group, belief accelerates. You hear others continue. You feel the room stay with the sound. That shared persistence matters. If so many people are still chanting, it must be working. That assumption forms quietly, without argument. Hill would notice how belief here feels earned. You didn't just listen. You joined. You repeated. You stayed. Effort turns experience into investment. Once you invest, belief wants to justify itself. The chant becomes not just something you did, but something that did something to you. What the chant promises is not clarity, but certainty of feeling, calm, focus, unity. Those sensations are immediate. They don't need future results. Hill understood how powerful that is. When belief delivers a feeling now, it does not need to explain later. The chant also protects belief from failure. If the feeling fades, the solution is simple. Chant again, longer, together. Belief is never disproven, it is only paused. That keeps it intact. In this space, belief does not attach to a person or a doctrine, it attaches to a process, sound, rhythm, repetition. That makes it portable. Anywhere the chant is repeated, belief can return. Hill would see how scalable that is. The group matters here. Belief strengthens when it is shared. Hearing many voices confirm the same rhythm reassures everyone that trusting the process is reasonable. Doubt feels unnecessary when the sound holds. Nothing about this feels false. That's important. The calm is real. The focus is real. The unity is real. Belief does not need deception when experience provides reinforcement. When the chant ends, the sound stops, but belief remains, not as a thought, but as a memory in the body. The sense that surrendering to rhythm worked once and could work again. Hill would recognize that as belief at its strongest, not argued, not tested, simply remembered.